Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Real Musicians Don't Starve. My name is Michael Elsner, and today I am with a very, very, very good friend of mine for over 15 years now, Wes Quave. And I got to tell you a little bit about Wes first. Wes was signed to LaFace Records. That was Babyface's record label. Over the years, he's collaborated with Babyface, Thicke, Akon, Aloe Blacc, Gloria Estefan, and Anne Hathaway, the actress. He's also shared the stage with a lot of artists that you would know, including Natasha Bedingfield, Taylor Dane, Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray, the Rembrandts. Of course, we all know them with the infamous Friends theme. Johnny Resnick from the Goo Goo Dolls, and Ed Roland from Collective Soul, and a host of others as well. And I have to tell you, before we jump in, a little quick story about Wes. I met him in the summer of 2003. I still remember meeting you actually down on Melrose.
That's right. Uh-huh.
And Wes is, I would say, and I stand behind this 100%, he is of all time, of all the performers I've ever seen, I've seen so many artists, he's in the top 3 frontmen I've ever seen. So much so that every month, for a number of years, the first couple of years I was living in LA, there was a whole crew of us that would go see him play every month in Pasadena. It was a whole event. So Wes, I'm so excited to have you here with us, and I'm excited for what you're about to share.
Man, Mike, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me be a part of your podcast. And I love what you're doing. And dude, you're an amazing friend. I love you. And I really look up to you, man. You're an awesome guy, man. Thank you.
Well, that's that's very humbling, because I have to say that far and away, you are one of the early in my career people who you mentored me so much and changed the direction of my career early on. In fact, one of the collaborations that I was going through with Wes, I said Anne Hathaway, but that was actually Wes produced the very first film soundtrack I was ever a part of, and it was for the movie Ella Enchanted, and it was a couple songs, and Anne Hathaway sang, I think, on one of them, or maybe 2. I don't remember the full story on that, but I think I played on 2 of them.
Yep, I remember that. Man, that was was that 2003?
That was fall of 2003.
2004, around there. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think it came out in 2004.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I remember when we first met in Melrose. Was it your first day or second day in LA?
I'd only been there like a week or 2. I was still brand new. That may have been like my first weekend, because I moved there in June. I got into town on Friday, June 13th, 2003. And I remember I met you by your birthday, and because I went to your birthday party, and that was in July.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it was within the first couple of weeks that I was in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Yeah. Dang. I remember that. That's crazy. I literally remember, I think you said, hey man, I've only been here for like 2 days. So it had been just a couple of days when we met.
It could have been, because it was on a Sunday. And I remember I woke up and I had nothing to do that Sunday.
That's funny, man. Wow.
That's funny. You never know, that's a great story of you never know, who you're going to meet, and why it's so important to put yourself out there. I remember waking up that Sunday and just thinking, I was just going to stay at this apartment I was living at. I was living in the floor of this 2-bedroom apartment with 4 other guys.
Yeah.
And I was just crashing in the floor in the corner. And I remember just thinking, I'm just going to chill out here. And then I think there was so much activity there that day that I just left.
Yeah.
And, met you and completely, like I said, changed the trajectory of my career. And I always look back to a lot of these big events that happened in my career. And oftentimes they were last minute decisions to just go out and be out and talk to people and meet people. And then you never know who you're going to meet.
Absolutely, man. I remember when you and I worked with Aloe Blacc.
Yeah.
We worked on that track together. And I had been in the studio a few more times with Aloe, but I hadn't talked to him in a few years, actually, just life, and then I heard him. I didn't know it was him at first, but I was like, man, that voice sounds so familiar on that track with Avicii.
Oh, yeah.
And I read the credit. I was like, Aloe, no way, what?
Yeah.
And I just thought, it's just funny how you meet people and you're in the studio and you're just vibing and yeah, you just never know who you're with in the studio.
Right.
Because people's career and their path just takes them and in different directions and everything. It's just so cool to see people thrive and succeed. And yeah, It's awesome. Anyway.
Yeah. So what Wes is referring to is Aloe Blacc. For those who might not know, he ended up having at one point, it was the most streamed song on Spotify, and it was a song called "Wake Me Up" that he had done with Avicii. And I've also seen other commercials that he's done as well. So he's had a good run, and it's funny to think back to when we were all what was that? That was probably back in 2005, 2006.
Yeah. Yep. I remember that. Crazy. Wow.
Good times. So you've had a long career, and of course now you're doing you're performing with a number of other well-known artists, which maybe you can talk about a little later on. Yep. But it's interesting to think back. I mean, gosh, that's we've known each other now for 17 years. So it's interesting to look back on just the career trajectories and all the things that have happened. And it's funny to think of, just of course, just getting older and experience and age and whatnot. And you look back on what you thought. I still remember driving out to Los Angeles, what my goals were and thinking about my career. And now I think of, where I'm at and what's next. And, the whole idea of success, what is success? It's completely changed. Yeah. And absolutely. I always love asking everyone, what is your definition of success now?
Yeah. Because you're right. It changes. I think for me, maybe to reduce the language and keep it super simple, it's really the ability to inspire, influence, and help others while doing what you love to do, what you're passionate about. Yeah. That to me is true success. For me, like in my journey, I mean, I love entertainment. So I've done what I love to do for a long time. But sometimes your path takes you on different directions and everything. And it took me a while to really define that. But when I recognize that when I keep the towel around my hand, my arm, if you will, and serving others, and seeing people's lives change by what you do, what you love to do. To me, that really started defining, man, I love this. Not only did it make me feel good, but I felt like I was fulfilled in my heart and in my soul. And I really felt like, man, that's my calling. And that became the tagline of my life and my business, to loving people back to life. Mm-hmm. And I do that through music and entertainment. And so that to me defines success for me. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, man. It's funny because a lot of people just look at success as being financial, but I think the reality is that if musicians really wanted to just make a lot of money, then they'd become doctors or stockbrokers. Yeah, absolutely. And there is that driving passion to create something that speaks to people on a deep level. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, there is a tangible thing that's attached to success that naturally, the idea is we've been given these skills and gifts, and we hone in on it and get better at it. And the idea is to create profit, create wealth out of that. But at the end of the day, when we close our eyes and we pass on, no matter what our belief is, the idea is to be able to multiply ourselves and leave a legacy behind, even if that legacy is known around the world or just in a community of people. If we multiply ourselves and we loved people well, and we are remembered by the way if we make people feel safe and honored and loved and cherished, mm-hmm. and remind them how awesome they are. I mean, that to me is so important, and that carries on beyond their ways, our life. That to me is, it's true success. Yeah, and that's real powerful too. Come on, man. Absolutely. Come on. So, of course, along the road, to achieving those goals, there's also, the negatives, there's the hard times, and there's the dips in the career and whatnot. So and we've all experienced that. There's no way to avoid that, Yeah, so sure. And a lot of times they become great transitions. Yeah. So
and I know you've gone through a number of them, and so have I over the years.
Mm-hmm.
How do you navigate your way through those, maybe the downturns or just the, I don't want to say rejection, because rejection is just a part of the industry, but through the call them like the trenches maybe of our career,
the valleys.
The valleys, yeah,
absolutely. Well, wherever there's a mountain, there's always a valley, and it's the rhythm, it's mathematics. That's what makes a good song, the tension and release. So I think in those moments of tension or those low moments for me, it's, I have a big heart for God, and I felt like that was something I leaned on tremendously for me, just leaning in on God and just asking God, trying to learn the right questions to ask, what's the season that I'm in? And I think, especially living in the city of no, I call it, like LA is like, you almost get rejected more.
Yeah.
You'll hear a no more than you will yes. And I've learned that everything is contagious in life. And so I had to figure out the atmosphere that I wanted to swim in, if you will, or allow things to get on me. And so during those low moments, I would always try to feed myself spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and surround myself with my tribe, if you will, just people who believed in the vision for my life and who would partner with me to some capacity. And I would always surround myself around that kind of environment, because that no voice can get so loud in your head that you create this negative narrative. And actually, whatever we think in our mind is going to manifest verbally. It's just the nature of how we're mechanically built. It's built in our DNA. And so I had to really get my mindset right. And so whatever we feed is going to grow. So in those low moments, definitely always feeding myself and just making sure that I'm emotionally fed, I'm spiritually, physically, all these areas. And that always helped me for sure. And just keep going, just being inspired. I think if I can give a nugget to anybody, it would be make sure that, figure out the roadmap to stay inspired. Because those low points are always going to come. So if I'm inspired, that motivates me. That actually feeds my energy level, and that gets me going. So.
Now, one of the things that, I learned from you very early on, and it made a tremendous impact in my life was, when I first moved out to California, I didn't really know much about the business so much. I had my production skills that I was, developing and stuff like that, but I didn't really know much about the business. Yeah. And one of the biggest takeaways that I got from you was you were always very focused on the business. You were always running your business. Whether you were running the live performance aspect or the production stuff. You had your studio in Burbank that was kind of the big local hang.
Yeah, that was, man. We had 20 people in there rocking it out.
Oh yeah, like on a daily basis. It was that place was happening all the time. But you approached, that was such a, like I said, a tremendous impact on me. Made a tremendous impact on me because you approached even from such an artistic standpoint. Everything you did from a business perspective. I picked up on that from you a lot, and that made a huge impact on me. But as you've continued to evolve in your career, how have you been able to create value for all the people that you're working with, whether you're performing and you've traveled the world performing, or whether you're producing other artists, whether you're writing your own songs, and just to piggyback on that, you've written theme songs for major sports teams. Yeah. You've had lots of film and TV placements as well. So you've done a lot. But how do you continue to add value to those who hire you?
That's good. It's a great question. I think the first thing that comes to mind is, I'll use the example of, I've produced live entertainment for the corporate world for a long, like 25 years, and, I've always said to myself, if I'm going to continue doing the live entertainment in that capacity, I need to bring something different to the table, reinvent. So years ago, I started having a DJ and we started doing mashups, and that's like a big thing now. So that was a big interest that I pulled in and for live entertainment, just as an example of just being innovative and offering that to clients, like, hey, we have live entertainment, but we also have a DJ in the band, so we'll keep the music going. So that really pulled a lot of interest, and people would rest on that. Man, we got to hire Wes and his band because they got a DJ. Man, we get the best of both worlds, and we get it for a great price, like that kind of thing. And then after doing that for quite some time, I partnered with an agency of bringing in celebrities because they worked with a lot of high-end celebrity entertainment talent, and so we partnered. And I just said, man, let's strategize this. That way, we become kind of the backup band for all these celebrities, and we can pitch it in the corporate world. And that's what we did. So that was one thing that we did, kind of a niche that we found. And the show's called Voices, and so that's something that kind of provided something of value to clients. And that really, man, we've gotten a really winning streak. And I mean, we've worked over 50, 60 celebrity artists. We'll feature them and play all their hit songs and everything. So that's something that we've done to bring, greater value and in that capacity,
And you use the word niche, which I love, because that's what you did. You created really your own little niche there.
Yes.
Or niche, however you want to say it, but you created your own little like niche there, where if there's anyone else doing it, there's a very small amount of other people doing that as well. So you kind of created this thing to where if people wanted that, they essentially had to go to you for it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really cool because sometimes we'll do this. You feel like you're at a music festival, and so basically we're the backup band for like 5 or 6 artists, so they'll say, hey, Wes, we want a 90s theme. I'm like, all right, we'll bring in Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray. We'll bring in the Rembrandts. We'll bring in Taylor Dane. We'll bring in, Mike Reno from Loverboy, just so we'll just place all these artists and you get this 3-hour show. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool because the show kind of comes to you.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of fun, man. I host it. And you get all these artists in one lump sum, bam,
See, one of the things I love about you and your story and your whole approach to things is I resonate with it because, you went after the artist, deal for a long time. Yeah. You ended up, getting signed to a record label. I went after the artist deal for a long time with various bands I was playing in and this and that, and things happen. Sometimes, you get some traction, you get signed, maybe the record doesn't take off. We know a lot of people like that where, the record didn't do much and then whatever, and then they don't know what to do, so the music industry sucks and they leave and, they start doing something else with their life that they're not happy with. But it's been awesome to see how you can take all these examples and build businesses around these ideas and keep the artistry alive to where, maybe you're not that household name, but the reality is that I would say the majority of people watching or listening, depending on how they're absorbing this, have heard your music.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hands down, for sure. I remember just to touch on kind of reinventing yourself and everything. I remember when I first came to LA in 91, I had a one-way ticket, a suitcase, and a dream. That's how I put it. And I went out there to do music and entertainment. Well, I fell in kind of the dance world. So I was a professional dancer up until about 97. And I was on tour. I had been in and out of like boy bands and things like that. But really the dancing was the thing that drew the financial side success. And then I was on tour in Germany. And I broke my leg on a day off. And then everybody had to continue out on tour. And I just thought, I just really felt like, God's saying, Wes, it's time to switch gears right now and focus on your singing. So that's what I did. So I had a broken leg. I took the train with these handicapped crutches, man. It's funny. And I had a suitcase with me, and I started working with producers. And when my heel or my leg finally healed up, I came back to the States here and started pursuing the singing career. And that's when I got my deal. And later because when I had my deal with LaFace, I was in the middle of that transition when Clive Davis left and Ellie Reed took over. Mm-hmm. So I was in that transition. So there were a lot of, changes going on with the label. So I ended up stepping away from the label. And then I switched gears again. I said, I'm going to focus on music production. TV and film, and getting back into, because I had been doing it for a little bit, back into the corporate world, putting a band together. And I thought, if I'm going to put a band together and do some top 40 songs, I really want to put my own spin on it, as if they were my own songs. And that's what I did. And that made it fun. It made it inspiring. And I had incredible success out of it.
Yeah. And that was kind of the thing that I was saying earlier when I was introducing you, that, you had a monthly gig, and you were traveling all over the world, but you had a monthly gig in Pasadena with the band. Yeah. And I remember that was the Friday night thing once a month, and that we met so many people doing that because it was a show. It was an experience. Yeah. It was like something that you'd see like at the Forum or something like that. It wasn't just a band getting up playing cover tunes. It was a full-on experience that was entertaining from, the first second all the way to the end.
Absolutely, man.
And really created a great show.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, when I perform, I try to read a room and read the atmosphere in such a way that, what do the people need, because sometimes it changes depending on who's in the room and everything. And so just providing that level of entertainment, I think it's a powerful tool.
So, you took, obviously there's a skill set there. You had the right mindset. We've kind of talked a lot about that. And then you took the actions, you made the decision and you followed through. When you look back on the last, 20, 25 years, what would you say has been the biggest contributor to your, being able to stay consistent?
Man, it's such a good question. I would say to stay consistent is really processing the thought of what season you're in. Because it's like kind of picking an orange from an orange tree, and it's low bearing, it's hanging there. But if it's not in its proper season that it's going to give you the sweetness, it's going to be bitter. And so figuring out the season that I was in, because then you take that orange, you're like stealing, because it's not yours yet, because it's not meant for you to eat. But if you eat it in its perfect timing, then there's a flow to it. And so I would say having an understanding of the season that I'm in. And when I learned there's a rhythm in life. When you start to strive, you start becoming fatigued and tired. And so I think in life, when you're inspired and you're at rest, we operate most effectively. And I learned too, not to get on a tangent, but I learned also just to place myself around safe people that I can trust, be transparent with, and that people who authentically cared for me and my vision. And that would actually really, really help me. People who, if I had a day of kind of a low day or a low week, no inspiration or whatever, I would make those phone calls. And I remember, Mike, talking with you years ago, and just hanging out with you and just having those moments. And you're like, man, you would just pump me up, man. You would really encourage me and just remind me of like, dude, you're so talented. You're gifted, man. And you're meant to do this. And you really inspired me. And I really appreciate that. So it's making those phone calls, even today. Like a month ago, I remember you called me and you're checking in on me. And I'm like, dude, I can't believe you're just calling me right now. Like, I need your voice, And it's those moments, man, that help me remain consistent. To be honest, those relationships, so important.
I'm going to throw a curveball at you. First off, I appreciate it. That's powerful and that's amazing. And as you said that, I started thinking myself. It's funny. It is kind of, we're kind of having a little bit of a love fest here. It's kind of weird, but it's funny.
I got my mic crushed now.
I didn't realize that. I'm really honored, because the funny thing is I look at just everything that I do, like how I'm running my business, and things get busy, and I have those times where I start to feel completely burnt out. I've spent 5 or 6 hours a day working on some music that needs to get worked on. Then I got to handle some business stuff, and then I got to create some content and put stuff out for the other, more of the online stuff that I'm, getting out to people. And then next thing you know, it's 10:30 at night, and I haven't had time to talk to anyone or see anyone. And then the next day is kind of a repeat of that, and it gets to be a lot. And there are days where actually, like, I'll just leave my studio, I'll get in my car and I'll go for a drive. And I actually think about, again, a lot of the time that we spent together, a lot of things I picked up from you. And I'll think about that, exactly what you just said. I'll think about, you know, I always enjoyed how Wes would just be like, today I'm just not doing anything. Today I'm just going to go to the beach and just going to relax. I just feel like, I need to take a break. And I would think back to those conversations that you and I would have and give myself permission to take a break. So it's funny because I think back to our conversations and the stuff I learned from you, and I go, yeah, this is what I need to do. I need to take a break.
That's
I need
awesome.
to, take what I learned from Wes, and this is the time I need to just rest for a little bit. And maybe I need to take the next 3 or 4 days off and not even open up my computer and give myself permission to do that. And those are things I've learned from you. But the curveball I want to throw at you is you've always been an incredible networker. You I mean, you seem to know everyone, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's always you're always like, oh, I know so-and-so, and you do, what would your advice be to someone who maybe struggles with getting out and connecting with other people and networking and growing their circle of, not necessarily, friends, absolutely friends, but connections within an industry that they're working in?
That's a good question. I think there's this scripture. I'm going to go, there's this Bible scripture, and it says, "Give and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together." And what that comes from is, back in the day, they would sift the wheat and they would put it in these barrels and they would press it down. And then, and it would continue to flow. So you'd press down and fall out and press down. So you pack that barrel as much as you can. And the reason why I say that is because give and it shall be given. So when you give into that barrel, you fill it up. The idea is to fill yourself up and then empty yourself out. That way you can put more inside. And if you learn to give to people, it creates a scent of safety, honor, love, because the root of love is just sitting outside yourself. If you love yourself well, you'll love others well. Mm-hmm. And so it starts with yourself. But I think for me, you can grow your network if there's always something amazing about everybody. I don't care who it is. I don't care. It's the guy on the street, the guy who's homeless on the street, the guy who's driving next to you, you're sitting, you catching the bus, you're on an airplane. There's always somebody next to you that you can learn from. It's always remaining a student. And so you find something amazing about somebody and you land on that. And it's not being fake, or it's not, I don't strategize and go, okay, what's amazing about them? And I'm going to do this to get in with them. It's not that, because then there's an agenda there. Yeah. But it's really, it's listening to your gut intuition. And like, for me, it's a greater conversation with God and say, okay, God, I'm going to this meeting, this networking meeting, whoever I'm supposed to meet, direct my steps and speak to me and help me be obedient to your voice and obedient to what I'm sensing in my gut, Mm-hmm. And that's what I do. I kind of, if I meet somebody, I just go, yo, man, those are great shoes, man. Like, I got a cop a pair of them shoes, bro. Like, where'd you get them from? And they're like, oh, I got that, and right there, you're just letting them know, like, dude, you're a cool guy, man. Like, I look up to you. And that brings safety, and that honors them already. And naturally, people are going to want to engage. Mm-hmm. And it's in our DNA to want to feel good about ourselves. So if you make somebody, you remind them that for them to feel good about who they are, you just build a relationship. I mean, it's effortless, And so I think for networking, it's really just making it about others. Mm-hmm. It's really making it about people. Yeah. And that's what I do in my business. That's where the tagline came from, loving people back to life. Yeah. When I coach people with performing, I coach people as artists. I just say it's never about you. People are going to make it about you anyway. So never make it about you, make it about others. And it doesn't mean you negate or you let yourself go. It's not walking away from self-love. You're actually loving yourself well about when you do make it about others.
Well, I think that's just a foundation for why you've been such an amazing performer. And I've even, been able to share the stage with you and play with
Yeah.
you, and watch it from both sides. I've been able to watch it from the stage and also from the audience,
Mhm.
and I think that's just a natural thing that you bring to the table, and why, like I said at the beginning, all friendship aside, hands down one of my top 3 performers I've ever seen and experienced live. And people on that list would be like Steven Tyler from Aerosmith and stuff like that. So I mean, there's some pretty stiff competition up there, but yeah, you just have that natural ability that you just give, and you speak to people when you're on stage. You find people and you actually sing to them and you point them out and you connect with them and you give them some expressions and you make them feel valued, that they're there.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, you know what? We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so I figured, man, I'm better off listening than speaking all the time. And so sometimes it's just important just to listen to what people say and pick up on that language, and then serve the conversation according to its need.
Hey, I just want to jump in here for a second and let you know that if any of your goals over the next year include recording and releasing a new album, generating placements of your songs on TV shows and films, or just building a fan base that will sustain your music career, I want to invite you to my special workshop, Real Musicians Don't Starve. In this workshop, we are going to focus on the 3 keys to your success, and you're going to learn an extremely powerful strategy that allows you to create your own wow factor. This allows you to attract opportunities to you and your music, as well as remove any financial worry from your life. You can check out this workshop for free at realmusiciansdon'tstarve.com/workshop. Now back to the podcast. So my final question for you is, if you could go back in time and sit at a diner, or across the table from yourself at 20 years old, or, in your early 20s, what 2 pieces of advice would you give yourself?
I would say the number 1 thing that comes to mind is self-judgment. I felt like in my life, one of the biggest things I battled is self-judgment, coming up with a song idea or whatever it is, and just judging it, assuming that people aren't going to like it. And I would tap myself on the shoulder and say, Wes, all of your ideas, just move on it. Don't stop judging it. I would do that there's a saying, Maya Angelou said that when people show you who they are, believe them. Because we have to go through these things to develop muscle and to learn, but I've entrusted a lot of wrong people in my life. And I've had to learn the hard way. And so I would tap myself and say, Wes, when people show you who they are, believe them, because they're being authentic to who they are, And so that would be the top 2. And then it lands on the more spiritual thing, but I would forgive, because I've carried hurt in my life. And what hurt does, it manifests in the craziest ways. And that's the open door for self-judgment and things like that. So people who have kind of done me wrong, we kind of like reduce the situation and we keep moving forward. And I think for me, I would just encourage myself to forgive people, whether they did something wrong to you intently, unintentionally, or with intention, whatever. Because forgiveness is never about them. It's about you and your position of heart and what you hold inside of your heart. And I would do that. And that way you just live a much more freer life, and you don't have these invisible chains holding you down. So
powerful, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Come on, man.
I love it. So what are you working on now, and how can people learn more about what you have going on?
Yeah, man. Right now I'm rebuilding. I'm building on our promo for my company, Live 61. You can go to the website, live61.live, or my personal website, which is wesquave.com. So I'm repackaging our promo for our Voices show, and kind of what we're doing for live entertainment. And then right now I'm developing a course. I don't have a name for it yet, but I'm basically developing a course, online course, who Michael Elsner has inspired me. Thank you, Mike. I'm developing a course on how to build a band and make money at it and be successful in the corporate world. And it's all about team building and how to build momentum and expand on your network and do that successfully. So I'm putting that together right now. I have an ebook that'll be available probably I want to say in about a month or so.
Yeah. And they can get that at Wes Quave?
Yeah, wesquave.com. Yep, that'll be available. Yeah.
You know, that's a great example as far as what you were just saying about, how you're, updating all the marketing stuff you have for the band, because that's something that like I said earlier, I learned a lot of business stuff from you over the years, really just sitting back and watching, Yeah. And that was a consistent thing that I always noticed. There were always new photo shoots. There were always new videos coming out. Every year it seemed there was a whole new rebranding of the band, really for the corporate world. And by the way, when we say like the corporate world, the corporate world took you around the world.
Definitely.
So it wasn't like playing like, a little cafeteria at the local, factory. These are, big, even, flying. I know you guys like have, even flown on like private jets, company jets and stuff like that. Man. I mean, it's the corporate world is I had no idea that existed until I met you. And then of course, became friends with everyone else in the group and whatnot, and even got to play on a couple of them over the years. But just sitting back and watching and learning how you did the branding on a very consistent basis to stay very current. That alone is just a great study, for others, just to see that and witness that on a continuous basis. I think that's very powerful. So it's live61.live.
Yep.
And Wes Quave, QUAVE.com.
Yep.
And I always love to end these podcasts with the manifesto that I have for real musicians, because the reality is that real musicians are business owners, and our business is music. A business is simply an organization where value is provided in order to make a profit. And unlike starving musicians who operate with a mindset of scarcity and fear, as success-driven musicians, we operate with a mindset of abundance, confidence, and service. We are doers, we are dreamers, we are creators, and we are achievers. We know that our true value is determined by how many people we serve and how well we serve them, because our truth is real musicians don't starve.
Come on, man. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, Wes, thank you so much for hanging out with us and sharing us. There's so much wealth. You delivered such a wealth of information today, really in such a short amount of time. And I hope that everyone listening will even go back and listen through a couple of times, because there's a lot of incredible nuggets that he dropped today that will be very impactful in your life if you are able to take those and start applying them to your own career, no matter what you're doing, whether you're doing music or whether you run a pool business. It doesn't really matter, because the concepts, and strategies, they will work no matter what business you run. But this is phenomenal. I loved so much of what you shared today. It's phenomenal, Wes.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for letting me be a part of it. I'm really honored. I love you, man. I think you're amazing. You're awesome. And thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, everybody. We'll see you in the next episode.